What's happening, people? Welcome to this episode of Everything 9000. Bit of a weird episode today because we just stopped an episode and Ishan said to me, do you know what? I've got something cool to talk about. I'm not going to tell you what it is. He's just Googled something now. He's got his phone ready. I don't know what he's going to say. But all right, let's go.
You know what? I think this is going to be interesting because I've got my personal views about it. But look, we've got three brown boys in the room. And like...
Brown one day.
Let's just see like how we feel about this. Like, so... A few days ago, about a week ago now, on the news, on BBC, on Facebook, everywhere I was seeing the same post. All I was seeing was, Hank Azarea apologises for voicing Indian character Apu on The Simpsons. And I was just thinking like, I just don't get it. Like, for me growing up, right, watching Apu on The Simpsons, he was my favorite character because...
Thank you, come again.
He was my favorite. And I'm just going to read out what he said. He said that, like, part of me feels like I need to go around to every single Indian person in this country and personally apologise. Like, as brown boys, what do you guys think about that?
It's a bit of a heavy one to drop, man, straight away, without any prep.
I've not got a problem with it. I mean, it does enforce the stereotype, like, Indians talk like this, don't we?
Yeah.
But a lot of Indians do talk like that. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it.
No, I think... I'm going to take the opposite view here, by the way, yeah. Okay, look, so it enforces in stereotype in the sense, okay, when I was growing up, and as I think I told you before, I lived in predominantly like a white area, and we, surprise, playing to the stereotype, we used to have a chip shop, right? So we used to have a business as well, right? Yeah. So a small business that we had. And going to school, it wasn't easy, man. Like, people would say like, oh, thank you, come again to me. Like,
Really?
Yeah. No, I'm being honest.
I'm sorry. I don't even mean to laugh right now.
No, but maybe these are things that people like me and you, we haven't experienced. And because we haven't experienced, for us, it's cool. Like, me personally, I think like, whoa, like, why is the world moving like this? Like, for me, as a brown guy, it's not that deep at all. Like, I've experienced racism in my life, not too much, but I have experienced it. And for me, it's like, for me, I was like, this guy was legit my favorite guy. I was like, so for him to feel like he needs to say sorry, I was like,
no, I don't know if it was the guy actor itself.
I liked that there was an Indian on The Simpsons.
No, it's not the fact that there was an Indian on The Simpsons. It was more so how he was like portrayed. Right, as I said, like I used to be fucking horrified of walking into the shop when I knew, like, coming back from school. Yeah, so like the shop that we had was on the same, like, there's the one main road in Gould, right? Yeah, and our shop was on the same road as like the school. So like a lot of the people when we would walk to school or come back from school, like a lot of the people I knew from school would walk past, right? Because we were so close to school. So I used to feel like really embarrassed, like opening up the shutter in the morning, right? So this is what I used to do: open up the shutter in the morning, right, up to the halfway. And then like open the door, go under the shutter, lock the door, right? So for me, that was like always like, and I would look around, just see like who's seeing me come out of the shop and stuff. And I'm being serious, man. This is that deep for me. Like I used to feel really embarrassed of like walking out the shop and walking into the shop and stuff. And if I'm working in which I used to work as well, like after school on the weekends, if any of the people that I knew from school used to come into the shop, I would try and fucking hide myself.
Instead of the actor feeling like he needs to apologize for playing the character, don't you feel like it's important to maybe educate people who are like being racist or like just giving into those stereotypes?
It's not so much. I think it's the reason the actor I think should have apologized.
You think he should have apologized?
I think it's a good thing that he did do, because Hank Azarea.
What did he do wrong?
I mean, it's not so much
like he was playing his role.
No, okay, in the sense like, so look. I'm not entirely placing the blame on the actor here, okay? Yeah, the producers of The Simpsons and so on, whoever the creators of Simpsons are. I think the larger blame lies with them, because they created this stereotypical character, okay? Yeah, and they've asked this actor to play. I mean, they didn't even.
What's wrong with the character they created? What did Apu? What does that represent? What's wrong?
I mean, Apu. It's like, honestly, is Apu the only kind of Asian person you see in America? Like, is Apu like all those brown people in America, right? Okay, yeah, like. If you were watching The Simpsons...
When did the show start?
It started like in the 80s, didn't it?
I don't know.
Might have been. It might have been.
It must be early 90s, 80s. I'm sure it must have been late 80s, 90s. I have no idea, but it's been around as long as we have, and I've always kind of like grown up with it. But it's always shown like certain characters in certain light. So, with the Apu, like, does every Indian in America talk like Apu? Does every Indian in America have a corner shop?
Why is that something?
Because
Why is that something wrong that needs to be apologized about?
Because like when you're watching this, okay, yeah, so The Simpsons, this is getting beamed into like, you know, living rooms in America, living rooms in the UK, and it's building an image over the years. So like people that kind of grew up with us, okay, yeah, they grew up watching The Simpsons, and they will think, oh, this is how every Indian is.
Yeah,
and
I
this
hear
is
that
what
too.
I mean, like, you know, me working in a shop and stuff, so I fit definitely into that stereotypical thing, and people would be like, thank you, come again to me, all that stuff. Yeah, it's minor. I suppose it's minor. It's not as, you know, being like, it's not like outwardly racist, but it's still there. And
I guess,
and it is still hurtful in a way. As I said, I used to be embarrassed about it, and like I used to like, you know, try and see who saw me come out of the shop, who saw me go in. The reason the actor probably apologized, and I think the reason, you know, he's rightly has apologized, is because although he didn't create that character, he was part of it in bringing it to life. You know, he kind of profited from it. You know, he made a lot of money. You know, Hank Azarea, like, by the way, this is a guy who's he's been in Friends. I actually quite like the actor myself. I don't know if you've seen Friends, but he's one of Phoebe's...
I think I need to see a picture of him. I'm not good with names.
Oh, okay. He's one of Phoebe's boyfriends, I think, you know, in the later seasons when he goes away, I think, into Antarctica or something.
Have you got a picture of him?
Well,
yeah, we can find one.
But he's a friendly enough guy, but I've seen him in a few other films.
You need to unlock your phone, bro.
But the reason he probably felt compelled to apologize for it is because obviously he profited from it. That's him. He's been in Friends. He's been in a few of the shows, but I think
is he Indian?
No. He's white. He's white.
He's white.
He's voiced not just that Indian guy.
Does that change your views now?
No, but like, so, you know, he didn't just voice Apu, but he voiced the cop. What's his name? The black cop and the doctor actually. He's voiced a few people basically. You know, like all the actors in Simpsons, they voiced like different characters, so it wasn't just like limited to one character. Right?
You know, another thing is like it's not only about Apu, but Apu had his family as well, and like not every Indian woman wears a bindi and a sari every single day. Yeah, and you know, I understand that like a lot of women. Experience things like racism and stuff like that.
You're producers and creators, right?
Yeah,
I'm Ishan. You're producers and creators. You're placing an Indian family in the show.
Yeah.
Right. What would you want to see?
Exactly, but I agree with that too. It's like you want to see things that make them Indian. Like imagine Apu without the accent. It's like what is he like? The fact, and I was having this conversation.
The sari is Indian. Be proud.
No, it is.
Yeah,
no, it's not necessarily. Okay, look. It's. I think it's beyond like what. Just okay. Look, when you look at Hollywood, okay, right? Yeah. How many? I mean, there has been a bit of a drive lately, but I don't think it's enough anyway. But really, how are Indians kind of like actors? Kind of like what roles do they get in like Hollywood? Normally, you see an Indian, it's either with like a white overcoat. They're like a doctor, or there's some sort of like mostly or like an IT guy, right? That's the only roles that Indians get. Really, mostly actors. I mean, now you've got the emergence of Riz Ahmed and stuff. They're doing some real good work, right? Dev Patel. But even they've had to go through their kind of things where they're either playing a terrorist, they're either playing a doctor, they're either playing an IT technician. And so like basically what it is like,
things that fit the stereotype.
It's not just that, but like it's just like basically Hollywood had space for these people, like Simpsons had a space for these people, right? Okay, yeah, but it was only to kind of fit around their story that they want to tell.
You know what
I mean? Like even like with it's a bit like with Indian films as well. Sometimes when you watch Bollywood, like from the 2000s and stuff, it's always been like the Muslim is the bad guy, the Hindu is the hero, and the comedian is always the Sikh, right?
It's very true.
And in that sense, this is why I think it was wrong to have Apu, and and I think it was right for him to apologize and say, well, look, it's taken him a long time to kind of come to the realization that this is wrong, this is not acceptable, and he's recognized that, and I think fair enough. But it's more so to do with Hollywood overall. I think like when you remove just Simpsons from themselves, when you look around how every other Indian is kind of portrayed, you don't really see like an Indian superhero, do you? Like all these superheroes, when you look at Marvel, all the characters are white, right? With the exception of one or two.
Black Panther.
Well, Black Panther is only pre-Black Panther. What I'm on about is like before Black Panther, they didn't even believe that like a black story could sell, like like a black actor could lead a whole film.
The Rock's working on a movie now, isn't he?
Yeah, with DC. He's
yeah. So I mean, whilst there have been like actors of different colors and so on historically, but the story's not been about them. The narrative's not been from their point of view. Even if you've got like stories about like Asian stories or black stories, it's always kind of like come from like the complex of like a white savior kind of complex, white savior narrative. Okay, yeah. Black Panther was obviously the first huge film that I think kind of
was predominantly black. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like, yeah, that kind of took it all out and said, well, look, historically, whatever you've been thinking has always been incorrect. Okay, yeah. But it kind of came more, I think, from generally like, the pool of roles that Asian people were getting on TV and stuff. I mean, there has been an improvement. You are getting more like kind of blind coloring, blind. I think it's called
blind casting.
Yeah, blind casting. Where when you watch Bridgerton, for example.
I hear a lot of people complained about Bridgerton though.
How so?
They said, okay, some people, were like, oh, it's refreshing to see, this, but some people are like, it's just historically incorrect.
I mean, come on. Like even I think there's a new film coming out with Dev Patel. I think it's called The Green Knight, and he's playing like kind of like a king back in like medieval times and stuff. So that's like blind casting too. So whilst there is kind of like an upward curve of sorts, like when you see Riz Ahmed, Sound of Metal again, that you can't really envision like. He's been nominated for an Oscar for it, but that role could have been played by anyone, and like the fact that it didn't have to be specifically kind of like a coloured person. So the fact that he did get that role, and it was a really good role, is an amazing film. They are starting to get opportunities, but it's still like if it's like this is where it needs to be right now. Like we're just about here now, I think.
I'm just gonna throw one more spanner in the works. Like I definitely hear everything that Amrit you've been saying, and like I agree. Like it's a lot deeper than what it seems, and I agree with that, but. Just on like the surface level, man, like, is it still really that deep? Like, and or is like society just becoming too sensitive to these kind of things, man? Like my mom and dad never had no problem with Apu. Like, how about imagine like for the people that came over here from India, maybe Apu was like the first cartoon character that they could actually relate with. Why are we not talking about that? Imagine you're from India and like you see someone, maybe that's how those migrants actually did speak at the time. So now you have a cartoon now, something that their children are watching. Oh my God, they're speaking like that. And maybe Apu made them flick their heads to the TV and be like, I can actually relate with that. Why are we not talking about that? Should he really be saying sorry for, relating with people of our parents' generation?
Okay. Ishan's just played it. In Uno you play it.
It's saying, well, look, the generations before us that came to the country, like our grandparents in the 60s and stuff, they went through. Obviously, for them, it was a total culture shock because they came from India, they came from Jamaica, they came from the Caribbean, they came from Pakistan, all over the world, kind of the Commonwealth countries, And they came here for one thing and one thing only, and that was to find work and basically raise their children so they can give us an education. Those people that came, majority of them weren't necessarily educated, but they were hardworking. They brought with them like an ethic and an ethos that, is unmatched anywhere, I think. When you look at the migrant workers that first came in, even us, like, I think we're quite pampered and stuff. We need 2 days off a week and stuff, and we think, well, I need a holiday, right? To them, that concept of needing a holiday or needing a day off is just not existent for them. This is like I relate because my mum's the same. She's getting older, but she still doesn't stop working. And when she doesn't work a day, she sees that as like a day lost rather than like a day rested, right? Yeah. So she'd be like, oh, this is how much money I lost out on today. I could have made this much money today. So I think for them, it was just a part and parcel of life. They came into the UK. Racism was rife. You had the National Front. You had skinheads going around killing people, right? Talking predominantly UK now. I mean, obviously America is bad as well. But since then, we've been born in the UK. We've kind of gone to those British schools. We've experienced racism ourselves.
So, we're the sort of generation that are starting to maybe challenge these stereotypes.
Exactly. But with them, they were just kind of enduring it.
Third generation, are we?
What, second, third? I mean, I'm an immigrant because I was born in India, but,
Really? I didn't even know that,
No, I was about 8, 9 when I came here. But I think it's...
Wow.
It's,
the story of Apu was based on Amrit.
This is what I take offense to, No, but what I'm trying to say is, like, I think with that, the point that you're making with our parents and stuff, I think with a lot of them, they knew racism was there, but they just accepted it. They just took it on the chin. Like, It's a bit like my mum, you know, when I used to go to school, my mum would every single morning say to me before I went out the door, like, oh, you know, if somebody says anything to you, if anybody, like, you know, wants to file, blah, 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 just walk away, you know, you don't ever engage, don't ever look at anybody, all that. So, like, for them, it was always just about avoiding conflict. It was about avoiding this. It was just about getting to work, doing the work, coming back home to their family, putting the food on the table, right?
And you're suggesting maybe that's why they never like challenged these things.
Yeah,
and
but
that's
it's
why
only
this
now that
generation
we've
is-
grown up with it. So, for example, like I grew up with it, going to school and stuff, you know, being like stereotyped like Apu. I've experienced that in my own school and stuff, right? Now I'm hold on. I'm thinking this is wrong, you know, like, okay, fair enough, I'm not white, but what the fuck, you know, like, why am I any less British than, you know, you are?
Yeah, I hear that.
You know, so I think it wasn't so much, well, you know, it wasn't wrong back in the day. It was wrong back in the day, but I think our parents were just too busy working and too busy like feeding us and making sure that we had a good future.
Yeah, I definitely hear
grown
that.
up and we're seeing like, well, this was wrong, that was wrong. I think it's for us to kind of point out, not our parents.
Now, this conversation be good though. Like,
Yeah.
you know, from a surface level, just reading an article, you wouldn't have thought that, you know,
It goes back this deep.
I was looking at Apu actually. Can I have my phone back? I was looking at what the Apu.
your phone's gone.
Oh, man. I was looking at, like, you know, on Wikipedia, like how they described Apu's backstory, and like I think it wasn't just that. There was like a few problematic episodes within Simpsons where the focus was on Apu, and like that caused a lot of backlash. I think there was one particular episode, I haven't seen this, but from what I read, apparently like there was this whole issue with immigration getting involved and stuff, and like and then Apu's
Really?
in trouble about getting deported and yeah, and so
But you know,
he's basically like shown to lie and stuff to the immigration officers just so he can stay in the country and stuff. Again, you know, it doesn't necessarily play well into the narrative.
I mean, it's not necessarily based on, you know, things that aren't happening though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, but
And that's true. And that's true as well. Like, you know, there's a element of
I'll ask you,
truth.
how many people do you know? Right. How many people do you know that don't have their visas but they're here?
look, I'm a human.
Now this is getting hella political, you know. I don't think somebody should draw the line. You know?
I'm not going to grass on my family members.
Oh shit!
But no, look. For me, right? I generally don't think there is anybody illegal, right? Okay, I'm a human rights lawyer. I do a lot of immigration work. I do a lot of asylum work, you know, trafficking work, and so on. So for me, this is a kind of saying somebody's illegal. I mean, come on, you know, is that person like any less of a person just because, you know, they don't have a British passport, or they, you know, their passport's not fucking maroon, or they were just born on the other side of the world? You know, I have clients, you know, without breaking client confidentiality and getting in trouble here, I have clients that have kind of like aren't recognized as British, but for all intents and purposes are British, right? You know, you look at them, you speak to them, you know, you wouldn't think that they weren't British, or, you know, and those people are kind of like suffering because of the immigration laws and stuff. But yeah.
Let's go back to Apu. Let's wrap this up. Yeah, even still after you had this conversation, I still think, like, I understand your points, but for me, do I get offended? I don't know. I'm still cool with it. Apu's still my guy. What are you saying, Aman?
Do you know what? I'll be looking out for it more now. You know, if
Yeah,
I watch a
and me
film
too.
or a drama or something, you know, I'll notice now, you know, is a stereotype being enforced? Or,
It is. I mean,
Or is there a
you watch
negative
it, like,
connotation that comes with stereotype?
Have you watched Homeland? Anybody of you guys ever watched Homeland?
No.
Again, that's hugely problematic as well. But let's not get into all the different TV shows. But I think when you look at it generally, like the kind of content that's been released, the films, the TV shows, you're kind of sick and tired of seeing, like, you know, the same brown guy playing the same character, or technician, or doctor.
Yeah.
You know, you're limiting those actors. You know, Riz Ahmed's a bloody good actor. You know, you've got Archie Punjabi, you've got Dev Patel. You know, Dev Patel, you know, top actor, man. If you watch Lion and stuff, all those
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Frida Pinto, you know, all of these brown actors, you know, do you guys remember, you know, Bend It Like Beckham, all those actors from there,
Yeah,
so
maybe it's a time for, like, you know, the media scene or Hollywood to, like, portray Indian actors in like a different light, opposed to, like, enforcing all the stereotypes. But then again, like, let's not go on too much of a different subject, but some good stereotypes sell. Like Bend It Like Beckham was an amazing movie that literally, like,
I mean, I brought it to Bend It Like Beckham, but like, wait, look, so those are kind of like that. Bend It Like Beckham, don't forget, was a film made by a Punjabi woman, right? Right? Yeah, so she knew where she was coming from. But whereas Simpsons, you
Amrit's got all the bars today, man.
No,
Got everything today,
it's
man.
not so much stereotype, but like she made a film.
She
about
lived
her
through
culture.
it. Yeah.
She's made a film about what she knows. Okay.
And that film related to a lot of people, especially in Southall.
Yeah,
100%.
Southall, not just Southall, but I think it related to a lot of Asians, a lot of women, like, you know, the second kind of generation.
It was
migrants.
so accurate, like, you know, the way they were walking down the Broadway and everything, like that's real life.
Look, that film has come
Literally.
from. It's not any sort of like appropriation. Like, you know, with App Simpsons, it's some like a few white people sat in, you know, writers sat in a room. They're all white, mostly probably male, guessing, you know, that time frame. And they're coming up with how would an Indian speak? You know, how would an Indian react in this? It's not authentic.
You see it now, the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
the Asian character that plays.
Raj. Yeah, Kunal Nair.
And he's is he a technician as well?
No, but but they're all scientists on there. But you know, like, Kunal Nair actually doesn't speak like that. He's actually got a proper accent, like, you know, he's got a Western accent, right? Yeah. So I think when you watch a lot of like,
but then again, that's the role he's in. That's the role he's been put
it's
in,
like
right?
every Indian actor has to speak with, you know, like talk like this and that, ting, like. But that's
and he's become a face, you know, of a lot of memes, a lot of short videos that go viral, and again, it enforces the stereotype.
We could argue,
so,
is
like,
that right?
You know, how many people in the West, like, we see, okay, some migrants and stuff, right? Yeah, our parents, probably generation, who do speak with an kind of like, you know, with an Indian accent. But how many of us speak with an Indian accent anyway? Again, Hollywood is just kind of like amped that up. I think in like, even when you watch like Bender like Beckham and stuff, so many actors, I think so many good actors have been denied the opportunity to progress just because of their color. Like, you know, when you watch Bender like Beckham, it's got Keira Knightley, right? You know, she made it huge. She became like the second biggest paid actor at one point when she was doing Pirates of the Caribbean. And, you know, Parminder Nagar, you know, poor her, she's an amazing actor, but she, you know, she never reached those heights as Keira Knightley. I mean, you know, that doesn't mean to say that she's less talented
and any less of an actor than Keira Knightley was.
It's just that means that, you know, those roles just weren't there for her to progress as Keira Knightley was.
You know, you've got an interest in acting in the industry. If a Hollywood director is watching right now, what do you want to say to them?
I want to say, well, if He's
crumbled now.
God, you're not ready for this.
You know, if Martin Scorsese is watching this, you know, and he's feeling the passion, the burn, you know what, man, you can why do you drop them in your email? They can get you through to me, right? I need an agent and stuff, man. If any agents are watching, you know.
Do you know what? The email address will be in the description. If there's any Hollywood directors out there,
the one who cast me, you know. Hold on, I should probably tell you, like, I'm in the process of losing more weight. You know, if you do. 5'6".
I think that's a wrap.